Through dangers untold and hardships unnumbered, I have fought my way here to the castle beyond the Goblin City to stare at David Bowie's crotch in a children's movie. Is this enough? With James O'Donoghue and David Hoare. Welcome to episode 37 of Is This Enough? The really brilliant game show that is both brilliant and excellent. This is a very special episode of Is This Enough? Because all the rounds this week are about the film Labyrinth! Oy! Written by Terry Jones. Oh, Monty Python. Produced by George Lucas. Oh, Star Wars. Art design by Brian Froud. Oh, Dark Crystal. And directed by Jim Henson. Oh, Adultery. A film that proves that some Nepo baby movies are actually pretty good. Because, of course, Hoggle was played by Brian Henson, Jim Henson's son.
Whoa.
And baby Toby was played by Toby Froud, Brian Froud's son. And we all know that Ludo is the son of Connect 4. But it's still a lot of fun, even if
No. Let's give that its due.
We have made up 3 rounds for each other, and neither of us knows what the other has prepared. All is to play for, as there is a prize for a winner and a forfeit for the loser. With me, as ever, is comedian, actor, painter, and bog of eternal stench inspiration, James O'Donoghue.
It's true. I fucking pong.
And he's not just playing a video game from the 70s. James, it is, of course, Fentanyl Health Week. Here it is. Which opioids have you been taking this week?
David, I have been taking laudanum.
Okay. And, of course, this week's special guest source is red pepper hummus, my favourite. James, last week I won and I received a Farage fromage frais, which James unfortunately invited a special guest that was Nigel Farage to give out the prizes, and he thought giving me a yogurt that was branded by himself was a good idea. Yes. Didn't like it at all. And James won a visit to Site 31. We hope you play along with us at home as you listen and let us know your scores. You can follow us at Is This Enough Pod on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. You can email us at isthisenoughpodcasting@gmail.com, where you can tell us your scores, your favorite rounds, and any film suggestions you have for other episodes. James, would you like to know this week's special guest prizes?
David, I fucking bloody tits would.
That was quite graphic. James, if you win this week's episode of Is This Enough, you win a hug from Ludo.
Oh.
Isn't that nice?
That's
James, if you lose this week's episode of Is This Enough, you'll receive a hug from the CGI owl.
Oh.
CGI owl. James, do you think this will be enough?
David, I hope it's enough to reunite me with my infant sibling.
Keep it light, keep it tight, please don't fuck my wife. Keep it light, keep it tight, please don't fuck my wife.
That's actually the instructions that David Bowie gave when they were making his trousers.
It's over to me for round 1.
Round 1.
James O'Donoghue, round 1 is, of course, called Genital Knowledge. James, at many points during the film Labyrinth, you can see the outline of the Goblin King's testicles in his tight trousers. But did you know they weren't actually his testicles? The camera was placed cleverly so that it was somebody else's testicles.
That's really good. Splendid.
Movie magic.
Splendid.
But are these characters villains or dicks in the film Labyrinth? I will tell you a character's name. You simply must tell me, is it the name of a villain or are they not a villain? This is for 77 points a question, as this film has a 70% 77% rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
Mm.
James, do you understand the premise of the round?
Yeah, I think so. Let's find out.
Are they a dick? Question number 1. Jareth.
Yes.
Reasoning?
Captured a baby.
He was asked to, though.
Still did it.
Yep, that is indeed 77 points for you there. Jareth is a dick. Question number 2. The worm?
He's a little bit of a
Come
wanker.
inside and meet the missus.
He's all right. He's fine. I wouldn't describe him as a dick, but I wouldn't describe him as not a dick.
I'm sorry, James, that's incorrect. He could have helped Sarah find that baby a million times faster and not endure any trauma. Bit of a dick, really, that one.
Dick move.
Question number 3. Are the parents dicks?
Yes.
Correct.
It's the
parents
80s. Every parents were dicks.
Do you reckon all parents were dicks in the 80s?
Well, all parents you saw in film and TV.
Oh, I see. That's quite a huge caveat just there.
Mm.
I'm going to drink some water now, but just before we started recording, I did a burp that made James go, oh. It was really quite something. It's one of those burps that caught me off guard, where it kind of like, I had lots of little burps and then a big one arrived. But yeah,
I'm concerned.
I think we're fine. James, question number 4. Shaft of hands, dicks.
Yeah. They're kind of... She's falling, going, I think I'm going to die. And then they're like, yeah, do you think I'm going to die? Fucking man up.
But with like...
The shaft of hands, I'm going to say they're dicks, but I watched the behind the scenes thing of this. That was very clever.
Very clever.
And I liked the puppeteers going like, here are the hands. And Jim Henson going, what if the hands were, what if he had a nose? And they were like, yes. And then him showing him this and him going, And knowing that Jim Henson at that point was like, that was like the height of Jim Henson. If you were just a puppeteer and you make Jim Henson go, yeah, that's good, that would be amazing, right?
Yes. This analogy won't make any sense to you, but there was a football manager in I think the late 70s called Brian Clough.
Yes.
And he was known for just being this like notorious, like really
irascible
difficult manager
fellow
to get on with. And if you did, he would basically yell at you and tell you were shit until you did something good. And if you did something good, he would give you the smallest thumbs up in the world. Not too dissimilar to your thumbs up from about 5 years ago. And it's James's weird thumbs up and weird
I've got
pointing.
really weird...
This is how James O'Donoghue used to point. And it really freaked me out. It's over there. Oh,
it's halfway between a politician's point as well.
Yeah,
Very
dislike it.
I had a teacher at drama school who you'd go up and do a scene and he instructed everyone not to clap at the end of it. He said, don't clap, the work's not done. And then we'd go through the scene. He'd sit back in his chair and he'd just stare and then he'd tear you limb from fucking limb until you were crying. Then he'd get you to do the scene again. And then if he liked it, then he might start a little round of applause. And I got that once.
And just look at you now.
But I didn't even get a clap. I got a very patronizing, well done.
Oh.
But he meant it, but a very awkward person who doesn't know how to control his tone. So he did mean to say well done, but it sounded like he was talking to a child.
Well, acting teachers knew how to control their tone.
No, they are weird guys. And if you listen to this, you're not.
You're incorrect. Shaft of hands, even though it literally sounds like penis of hands, they are in fact not dicks. They helped Sarah out and took her in the right direction, so they're not dicks. And finally, question number 5: is humongous a dick?
What a lucky wife! Humongous. He's just a kind of android thing, isn't he? He's sort of... Does he have a soul?
This got way deeper, but that was as deep as where that burp came from.
I'm going to say humongous is a dick functionally, but doesn't have a soul.
You
So
love a
you
caveat,
can't.
don't
It's
you?
got a very little say on being a dick.
James, unlike Shaft of Hands, Humongous sounds like a dick and is a dick. That's another 77
Hey.
points for you there. That puts you on a remarkable 231 points. It is over to you for round 2.
Round 2.
Well, David, with scores like that, I don't think I'll be crying hard as Babe could cry. David, I loved revisiting the Land of Labyrinth this week. I loved that I was watching a film, and along the way, I met this girl who meets a series of intricately designed characters, all in keeping with a strong sense of aesthetics from a visionary director, a director, I should say, who has worked on some big sci-fi dramas. I loved seeing the sense of the dark and macabre coexisting with the childhood and innocence. I was gripped by the story of a naive girl who, out of anxiety, retreats into a fantasy world of her own making to escape the brutal realities of an ever-changing world, seeing her countrymen fall to barbarism as a right-wing regime sweeps the land. Turns out I'd been watching Pan's Labyrinth, though. So instead, I had to start again. David, turns out they both have the same plot. So one of them, it's the Spanish Civil War, and another one, it's Reaganomics. David, is this film okay? There are loads of elements of this movie that I can't help but feeling uncomfortable with. Was it Jim Henson? Was it about the 80s? Was it just a general vibe of wrongness that existed before proper labor rights for child actors were introduced? Who's to say? Either way, tell me if these things are okay. This is 48 points each. 48 because I had a reason for this and I didn't write it down. It's worth points each.
Can I just say that James is the one that suggested this film? We did put 3 films into a spinny decider thing and it came up, but James did suggest this film. So now that James is raging against it, I'm totally here for it.
It's what a weird film. What a weird, heinous, some would say, but delightful film. David,
yeah,
are these things okay? The pervert wall. The wall of just copping a feel.
Oh, what, Shaft of Hands?
Shafts of hands. Is that okay? Sounds like you could have done with them when you had that trouble with the doctors recently. Oh!
Yeah, I'm going to say the Shaft of Hands is okay. It's not great. It's okay.
I'm going to give you that because it is definitely not great. So, David, that's 48 points. David, Jareth wants to fuck a child.
It's not okay, is it?
It's not okay. It's not okay. 48 points. Slapping an infant in order to make it scream. That's what those fucking puppet freaks wanted to do.
It's not okay.
It's not okay. It's really not okay.
I can't wait to do Is This Enough episode on The Shining. It's going to be fucking... Is this okay?
Morally, this isn't okay. David Bloody Showy. Is that okay?
There was a point when I was writing out all of my stuff where I was like, I've mentioned his knob once. Can I mention it more than once? And then I was like, fuck it. Let's go for it. It's no, it's not. It's not the worst thing in the world.
People look back fondly on it, and there is
fondly.
I'm pretty sure my girlfriend knows the person who was doing the crystal ball juggling.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, David Bowie wasn't using his own hand to do the ball magic. He had somebody else's arm.
It's called contact juggling, and the kids love it.
We'll get onto this, but like David Bowie as a whole in this film, I'm like, it's David Bowie.
It's kind of like he's a very unpleasant presence in it.
He's the villain. you know, but
Yeah.
it's
No,
just
I
it's
don't want to
very
be
prominent. It's sort of like I feel like watching that film, just watching scenes with his genitals so protruding will probably nearly take your eye out.
Mm.
So
There's also a way, like, women of a certain age, some of them, I've seen them interviewed about this, and it's spoken about like this was a sexual revelation and this was important in their sexual development. And there's an element of
Richards, and they had David Bowie's. Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
Well, it's that leads. I don't know what kind of discourse that leads us down, but I tell you what, we are underqualified, David.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's okay. It's not great.
Yeah, I'm gonna say yeah, it's okay. And then finally, David, Reaganomics.
No, it's not okay.
Absolutely, it is not okay. It's great. I'm making so much money on these deregulated planes. I wish I'd regulated a microphone stand, though. David, at the end of that round, you have a absolutely majestic 240 points. Things
Oh, it's close.
very close. This is very
9
tight.
points in it.
This is very light. And please don't fuck my wife.
Round 3.
If you've not watched the show before, our catchphrase is "keep it light, keep it tight, please don't fuck my wife," and that's why James said that.
No, I didn't say it for that reason. I just don't want you to fuck my wife.
I feel like that might have been the wokest round we've ever had, and it still wasn't that. Is this okay? No. All right. Round 3 is, of course, called "How do you feel about Labyrinth?" James O'Donoghue.
Can I be honest with you, David?
No.
Okay. I love
Yes, please.
Labyrinth.
No, please
Uncritically.
be honest with me. Yep.
This is something I'm very interested in because my relationship with nostalgia is one of slight disdain, and I'm very suspect of nostalgia in a way that I think other people may not be. But I understand this has a very nostalgic place for a lot of people. I didn't see this until I was, I think, 17. And I've been looking at it going, yeah, but my memories of it are so foggy and it's so blurry and so distant. It's like, oh, I saw it at a friend's house and all my friends were smoking a lot of weed and all the windows were closed. And I got contact hide and watched this film. And for that reason alone, it has a very special place in my heart. Also, aesthetically, love the puppets, but the rest of the set is a nightmare. I detest this color palette.
On the subject
a lot of rubberized foam.
Yes. On the subject of nostalgia, I've been thinking about that a lot recently, having been watching these things and discussing them with you. And much like how I told you I watched Fifth Element recently, that I would have thought was one of my favorite films, and I did not enjoy it. I think a lot about how people. There's a phrase which is like, people don't remember what you said; they remember how you made them feel. And so there's this element of stuff from the past where people are like, "Oh my god, it's the best thing ever," and then when somebody younger than you goes back and watches it, they're like, "Wasn't that good?" And you're like, "Oh." It's not just because of the quality of the film or the song or whatever. It's partly because of like where you were at and how it made you feel. So I can completely understand that if you watch this whilst in a sort of weird, slightly mystical way, then it's probably got quite an interesting fogginess, pardon the pun, to you. I would also agree that the puppets amazing. And you haven't watched Dark Crystal yet, but like a lot of this film was lessons learned from Dark Crystal, where Dark Crystal has some of the best puppetry they've ever done, and also the crystal bats. and which is a joke you don't get, and also the fact that like he wanted in Dark Crystal no
humans.
humans, and the main characters were the most human-like, but they couldn't animate the face, and therefore the main characters are kind of like the second worst puppet in the entire fucking thing. But yeah, so I would agree. Yeah, there's a lot of Robbery's fun, but I think that's okay. Like I didn't watch Princess Bride as a child, and so I kind of saw it once at uni when I was a bit drunk and was like, okay. And I know people hold that with that sort of reverence of nostalgia. And it was on the telly recently, and my girlfriend and I watched it, and that is like watching three people in fancy dress from the fancy dress shop round the corner on a like back lot. It really just looks like a set. I would argue that the kind of labyrinth stuff, some of it works in context because it is supposed to be heightened.
I think the thing is they've taken the color palette of your nan's sofa from the 90s. Like it looks like a kind of velour, maybe velvety kind of sofa.
Did you visit my nan's sofa in the 90s?
David, who do you think sold her the sofa?
Ronald Reagan?
Yes, and that's why I love Reaganomics. When we sat down to watch the play last night, I turned to my friend just as the lights were going down and said, "I love Thatcher." And
then... sorry, yes. More thoughts on Labyrinth from you, sir?
More thoughts on Labyrinth? I think it's really laudable to spend millions and millions of dollars on a big old swing and a potential miss, and it hits where it needs to hit. It's like a big kind of family-friendly, child-pleasing film. It does what it needs to do, but it's creative as fuck. And watching the stuff was genuinely made me excited to go out and do artistic shit. Because it is a big creative thing, and you see people in studios and in workshops making mad shit and go, does this work? And behind the scenes stuff gets me like that sometimes. There was when Colin Farrell played the Penguin, and they were
unrecognizable.
And he just was like looked in the mirror, was like, oh, this guy. That was like, oh yeah, acting looks really fucking fun. And this is like, yeah, being on making shit looks really fucking fun, and making big creative swings and misses. And it's an original IP. It's original, IP. And when I pee too much, sometimes I need some help from
Reaganomics.
But it's, I don't want to be like, you can never make it today. You'd never make it today. But there's an element of, could you convince a studio to spend millions and millions of pounds on puppets? And puppets at this point was kind of an old technology. There was CG that they could use. They did use it badly. Like that PS1 owl.
Dude, that wasn't PS1. 1986, probably 1984, because they had to make it for like 2 years and then put it in.
I know, but the owl you could put that owl on a PS1 and you'd conceivably get away.
It might complete the first Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, you could put that owl on the PS1, and it was already at full health.
Already at full health. That's good.
Yeah. But I think it's a big old swing, and I have a lot of respect, even if I think this film is a bit of a chore.
Interesting.
Less of a chore than episode 1.
Oh god, yeah.
As in of Star Wars episode 1, not episode 1 of this podcast, which is a delight, a treat for the ages.
I would. I've got some responses to what you just said. I really want you to.
I've got some responsibilities.
I've got some responsibilities. I want you to watch Dark Crystal, not because I want you to love Dark Crystal, or I want you to be on the same page as me. I just want you to watch it so that you can then watch the making of Dark Crystal and be like, "Holy fuck!" And you'll actually understand Labyrinth even more, I think,
Mm.
if you've seen the making of Dark Crystal, because it's like that like Labyrinth is truly a response to what they learned. There's a bit in it where Brian Froud, who's the art director, he's like talking to the guy interviewing and be like, how did you come up with the design for this character? And I swear he draws 4 lines and it's like a perfect recreation of what becomes a puppet later. And he's just like, it's like watching a fucking magician. Just be like, do, do, do. And also, could you get puppets greenlit today? Well, they made a Dark Crystal TV show for Netflix that had everybody involved, produced by the baby in Labyrinth, Toby Froud, now produced.
He's still a baby as well.
Yes. And they did it, and it was really well received, and they used nearly every puppeteer in like the Northern Hemisphere, and it was really well rated. And I think a lot of people watched it, and Netflix went, "We can't do this again." It was left on a bit of a cliffhanger, and it got cancelled, and everyone was like, "Fuck!"
But that's
Because
also
it's just
that's also the
expensive.
Netflix model of doing
Yeah,
shit.
of course.
But
So they tried to make it again, but they didn't. So, but yeah, I'm sorry that you found it a chore, but I understand where you're coming from.
I think when you watch something that is like seen as nostalgia bait, but you have no nostalgia for it, it's a little bit like tagging along to a party that you weren't really invited to, and you don't really know anyone, and your mate is going, "Hey, it's fine," and you're kind of in the queue for the toilet just for something to do. I'm not very good at parties.
How do you know Jeremy? And you're like, I don't.
And
well,
like,
James.
Well, because you don't know Jeremy, you can't be here in Islington North. Turns out you're in...
That's how it feels sometimes. It doesn't really matter. James, as you trudged through Labyrinth in order to make hot content with me, I'm going to give you 2,000 points for your troubles. It's over to you for round 4.
Round 4.
David, round 4 is called No. What do you think about the film Labyrinth? Starring Hoggle.
I like how you got its name wrong, and that's a joke in the film. The start of this film is very annoying. I don't understand why she's just on her own in the park doing a thing. It kind of nearly works narratively, and the CGI owl is like, what the fuck? And up until the goblins arrive, it's a bit like, because she's talking to herself, it's sort of like weirdly ADR'd. She's yelling at a baby, she's yelling at her mum, and it's very like,
yeah, she's a bit horrid to begin with,
which I guess is part of it,
and that's the hero's journey.
Also, this is the first time I've watched this film since I watched Eyes Wide Shut, so that master ball scene is like 1,000 times creepier. And I feel like I a bit like you. I didn't watch this when I was very young, and I used to pride myself on knowing like where I first saw a film or where I might first heard a song. And I'm racking my brains, and I really cannot remember the first time I saw this. I truly feel like I watched this in order to impress a girl I fancied when I was a teenager. Do you know that
Why, David? Cast your mind back. It's a smoky room in Enfield. You're in the corner of the room. But we were all 17. You were in your like 20s of this, but that was a weird move, David. Weird move.
Kathleen Kennedy. And you actually saw each other there, but you didn't. I think the film as a whole is pretty flimsy. The narrative. I think the start is not great. I think Bowie is not as good as I want him to be.
I don't think does well with the puppets. I don't think his sense of timing is... You know what he could have done with as experience for this film? Panto. Because this is a big pantomime villain, and he's not quite got the pantomime. There's a little bit of this guy's trying to act.
I guess so. The thing is like he is trying to act, but he's also David Bowie, so he's mental, and he's taken like all the cocaine in the world. Yeah. So and the songs are like fine, but they're not astounding.
It's like there's Dance Magic Dance, which is like, okay, this is like an era of Bowie that I don't like, but it's also two eras of Bowie's that I don't like. Because it's his kind of like 80s power ballad Bowie mixed with his early 60s novelty songs like Uncle Arthur and the fucking Laughing Gnome.
Have you seen the interview with him in the making of, where he kind of goes like, "I was wondering if I could do this, but I did the Laughing Gnome. I can do the Laughing Gnome. I can do this."
I like the interviews with him where he's still in the eye makeup, but he's got his really weird cropped David Bowie's 80s hair.
Oh yes, he's taken off his weird hair and just put on his own normal weird hair.
He's got such weird hair, that guy.
So we watched Muppets Christmas Carol at Christmas, not last year, but the year before. And when it ended, I think Netflix just like automatically put on Labyrinth.
Yeah.
And my sister went, "Oh, I've never seen this. Why haven't I seen this?" And about 30 minutes in, she went, "Oh, I see why I haven't seen this."
I watched Muppets Crystal Palace, which was a football game the other day. Did really well. Gave it 2 halves, but you know what? Our boys came out on top. Thank God they were on top. They got no bottoms. Hey!
They're all tops. But James, what you must know is at one point I owned 2 copies of this on DVD because I bought it, the original one, to have it on DVD because I enjoyed it whenever I saw it when I was younger. And then I watched Dark Crystal and I wanted that on DVD, and I got a 4-disc box set, which was both films and then both making ofs on DVD. I currently own no copies of it on DVD because I think I was like, I'll keep the box set and get rid of the other one, and then I lent the box set to somebody else, and I don't know where it is. The characters, the puppets, and the moments in this film. There are puppets, characters, and moments in this film that's some of my favorite in film history. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I really love the man with a bird hat.
Yes.
Who is Frank Oz.
Yeah.
I absolutely adore the false alarm wall that's like telling them to go back.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Go back." And they're like, "Don't even say it." And he's like, "Oh, come on, I don't get to say it that often." And really, really good.
There's little bits of Terry Jones Python stuff that you can tell he's itching to put more in, but he's been very controlled. And I do, that takes a lot for. Also, Terry Jones is the sweetest fucking man.
And
I
think if he wasn't walking around with Michael Palin, everyone would like talk about him in the same way they talk about Michael Palin. Like Michael Palin is like made of sugar sweet, and then Terry Jones is pretty fucking adorable, but just not as adorable as him. So it's a bit like he's like Rafael Nadal to Federer.
I thoroughly recommend. He did a podcast interview with Robin Ince and Joe C. Long, and it's he just comes across as such a sweetheart.
Fantastic. But yeah, Ludo is one of my favorite characters in anything ever, I think. I absolutely love Ludo. I love the door knockers. I love the fact that they have a rubbish heap lady, which looks like an actual enemy from Bloodborne, and I wonder if Bloodborne took inspiration from Labyrinth. I absolutely love when Sir Didymus is climbing over Ludo and kind of sticking his head out in all sorts of different places. I love Ambrosius the dog, and I particularly like the fact that in the same shot they'll use a puppet and then a real dog in the same like movie magic.
This is a good film for movie magic.
Yeah, and I love the goblins on the back of the tunnel cleaner when they've got that thing coming towards them that thinks they're going to get them, and then they get out of the way, and then you see behind it, and there's like 4 goblins like rolling it along. Yeah, as said before, the making of is incredible, and the fact that like Humongous was the biggest puppet that the Henson production team had ever made,
and
ever.
Again behind the scenes, absolutely fascinating. But how they made that. If you look at it when it's like wireframe lumbering around, and you're like, "What the fuck is this going to look good?" And it's just time and throwing shit together to make something look good. And I think that's something that's something that we've lost. There's something that's really lacking from the cinematic. But it like when stuff comes out now and you're like, why are the effects so bad? It's actually technically everything is still there. There's just lack of time. And if you have time and creativity, you can make just about anything look. It doesn't need to be convincing, but you can make it look good. You can make it look engaging.
Apparently, Jackie Chan made sure that they would get everything right and do a load of takes. They could obviously do it a bit cheaper.
In Labyrinth. That's weird.
But no, like he would do like loads of takes to do stuff like flipping stuff around and catching things, which is quite a difficult trick. And he would do it over and over and over again until he got it right. Because he was like, and he goes like, if I film in America, I'm not allowed to do that because it's time is money.
Yeah.
Whereas if I can film in Asia, I'm able to do these a million takes, and then that kind of makes those bits more memorable because it's not just they're just trying to get shit done. And like some of the puppetry in this is incredible, and some of the way it's lit in stage is great. And then you've got those dudes that like lob their heads off, and it suddenly becomes like the earliest version of a weird green screen, and it's like.
Yeah. And the elements where it interacts with computer stuff, you're like, oh, everything in camera has this charm to it, and then everything out of camera, you're like, oh, this reminds me of the grave.
But yeah, so I'm much like you. I have no nostalgia for it because I wasn't young enough to do it, and I know there'll be people watching this who have wild nostalgia for it. And any criticism we have, they'll be like, blah, 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 blah. But like, and you know, I know people that have an overwhelming nostalgia for it. But what I will say is, in the grand scheme of things that I watched later in life, having not seen it as a child, and people were like, you've got to watch Never-Ending Story, The Goonies, Princess Bride. This ranks very highly for me in the things that I didn't watch as a child, but like can watch later on. It's not perfect in any way, shape, or form, and like story parts of it do fall apart. I also really, really love the fact that there's sort of a weird message about growing up in it, and just like in the middle of all sorts of fucking nonsense is Jennifer Connelly being like, oh, okay, I'm learning some stuff, but it kind of all gets a bit lost in like, I feel like at the end when the parent comes back at the end, and then she's like, oh, they're all here in my bedroom. It's kind of just like a sort of fun, light-hearted ending that doesn't really end the story that well.
Yeah, I think,
but as I say, it's good. I really like it. I like watching it. I enjoy watching it. There's just bits of it that I'm a bit like, but the bits that are good are so good that I can thoroughly get past the bits I don't really care for.
Well, David, what an in-depth answer. And for an in-depth answer, you deserve some very deep points. That's why I'm giving you 20,000 leagues under the sea. That's 20,000 points. David,
thanks.
With all to play for, it's over to you for round 5. No. Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's over to you.
Round 5.
James, round 5 is of course called Dance, Tragic Dance. Labyrinth has so much stuff happen in it, and it rollicks along at a terrific pace, coming in at a lovely 1 hour 40, which is a full hour less than Eyes Wide Shut. But in order to get that runtime down, they did, of course, have to cut out several more songs that were for the film. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play you a song, and all you have to do is tell me if it was cut from Labyrinth or if it was just something else. And this is for 34 million points a question, as it took $34 million at the box office. Did you know that in America, when this was released, it did not get its budget back and was seen as a complete flop? And it's the last film that Jim Henson ever directed, and it sort of damaged him and his reputation a bit. And then, you know how like nowadays there's like Marvel films that do horrifically in the West, but they go to the Asian market and make all their money? Well, rather than the Asian market, It made all its money in the UK.
That makes me like it more. Not the British. It makes me like it more.
Please don't
I
get
tell you
Farage
who
out.
else likes
No,
it.
don't get
It's
no.
me. This is my favourite movie. I love it.
Take your yogurt
Dance,
back,
magic
Nigel.
dance. It reminds me of The Babe. The Babe was born in the UK and is therefore what? Oh, he's gone. He's gone.
Stop bringing up Nigel Farage. James, please remember that this is being filmed on what is it, the 27th of June, but this will be coming out after the election.
A while after the election.
Yes.
We've been banking these.
Yes. But Roger Ebert said that it was like a modern equivalent of The Wizard of Oz for his review, because it was like, it scares kids, it's fun, it's exciting, it's got all the elements that you want from a family film. Anyway, James, I'm going to play you 3 songs. You just have to tell me if they were cut from Labyrinth or not. Question number 1, was this song cut from Labyrinth?
Spin my magic balls. Spin them round and round.
Yes.
James, was that cut from Labyrinth, do you think?
I believe that was cut from Labyrinth. And I think it's an aria that goes on for about half an hour.
Correct. Which is why it was cut, because otherwise you're only half an hour less than Eyes Wide Shut, which is The Barometer, a film that was made, 13 years later.
David.
Yeah.
David, why is Iron Man 3 longer than Eyes Wide Shut?
Is it?
Yeah, they all are. Why is fucking what?
Yeah, why is fucking? That is the question.
Why is fucking?
That is literally the question that Eyes Wide Shut postulates, and the answer is yes. Question number 2, James. Oh, please. I thought you were going to go, David, why must you bring up Eyes Wide Shut so much? And I'm like, you're the one that keeps inviting Nigel Farage on this podcast. Please don't bring him up again. James, question number 2. Stop it. Question number 2. Was this song cut from... Lily said Eyes Wide Shut. Was this song cut from Labyrinth?
I don't need you anymore, Tony Visconti. I'm gonna make lots of money with the Muppets.
I can imagine it was. I can imagine that that was also written by Brian Eno.
Oh, well,
Tony
James,
Visconti there doing more than people think.
More than people think. Sorry, James, you're incorrect. David Bowie has always been a perfectly reasonable human being to all other human beings. So you do not get 34 million points there. James, one last chance for you to get some points in this round. Question number 3. Was this a song cut from Labyrinth?
The real puppets are the ones in the government.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Now we're cooking. Now we're fucking whoa. Are you even allowed to say that?
I think you're allowed to say it, but was it in Labyrinth?
Oh, I think this is Thatcher's Britain. This is Reagan's America. You can't get away with that. I'm going to say it's not.
Correct. Billy Bragg was not indeed in Labyrinth. Though being stuck in a labyrinth would explain why he wasn't looking for a New England. He would just be looking for an exit to the labyrinth. James, at the end of that round, there's a bonus quickfire round. Oh my God.
Oh, yes.
Quickfire backing singers. If your backing singers aren't up to scratch, fire them out of a cannon. But are these real backing singers that featured on the Labyrinth soundtrack? This is for 12 points a question because there were 12 songs on Labyrinth. James, did you know that there was some backing singers on this album that you might be surprised by?
Oh, I'm very excited to find out this.
Question number 1 was Shaka Khan on the Labyrinth soundtrack.
Yes.
Correct. She was indeed. Isn't that absolutely
what the
mental?
fuck?
Yep. She was one of the backing singers on Labyrinth.
Amazing.
Put in the scores. Question number 2 was Craig Charles, a backing singer on the soundtrack for Labyrinth.
I'm going to say no, but I think it would have. Don't you give me that look. Yes.
I love. No. Go with the original 4.
I'm going to say
Yeah,
no, but I wish he were.
Correct, James. He was not. That is another 12 points for you there. Question number 3 was Danny John Jules on the soundtrack for Labyrinth.
Danny John's Jules.
Johnny John Jules, the cat from Red Dwarf.
Oh, yes. Why not?
Correct, he was. Isn't that weird?
Fuck.
Question number 4 was Danny Johns, the Bristol comedian, on the soundtrack for Labyrinth.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
No, James, she wasn't born yet,
Oh.
but she is wonderful. Question number 6, Luther Vandross.
Surely not.
Incorrect, James. Luther Vandross worked very closely with David Bowie, and David Bowie gave him his big break. I believe that Luther Vandross also worked with Chic, Nile Rodgers and Chic, and obviously Nile Rodgers took his whole band over to work with David Bowie. So Luther Vandross is on the soundtrack for Labyrinth. If you look up Dance Magic Dance, it's him, Luther Vandross on backing vocals, Steve Ferrone, who's not a name you'll know, but he's like Questlove's favorite drummer. And there's somebody else on it as well that you're like, oh, Fonzie. Oh, no, I don't know if Luther Vandross was on that. Fonzie Thornton, who was on the Soup for One soundtrack. This all means nothing to you, but I'm cool. Cool. Next one, Brian Eno.
No, this feels Eno-less. This feels like he'd leave Roxy Music about this.
He'd left Roxy Music about a decade before. But no, I think he was away working with U2 on the Joshua Tree, making fucking shitloads of money.
There was a point where Eno just went, no, now is the time for money.
Yeah. And the last one was Ronald Reagan.
Well, of course. Yes. And that's why you can hear dance, magic dance, dance.
Correct, of course. Ronald Reagan was fucking everywhere in the 80s. James, at the end of that round, an extra round, you have 68,022,091 points. It is over to you for round 6.
Round 6.
Bloody marvelous. David, I am actually now ushering in our host for this next round. Very excited because he's come from the Goblin Realm, which I believe is on Zone 7 if you use your Oyster card. So, David, here he is right now. He's actually got someone else to tap out for him, and through clever editing, it looks like his hand. It's David Bowie from the film Labyrinth playing Jareth the Goblin King. Here he is.
Hello, David.
Hello, David. It's I, the Goblin King. Goblin. But who's he been goblin? David. Can I tell you something?
You're right there, Goblin King.
Can I tell you something? You
Yeah.
remind me of the Babe. What Babe? Babe Ruth, because you've been knocking it out of the park. It's not easy being the king of the Goblin Realm. I have a great many duties and responsibilities. Waging war, kidnapping babies, and the state opening of Goblin Parliament. I have a very packed schedule. The biggest bugbear of mine is that many people mistake me for other people. Not rock god David Bowie or Tina Turner's provider of wigs, but because of my name. My name, Jareth, sounds very similar to your mortal human name, Jared. So join me as we play Jareth or Jared. These are all worth 25 million points. Why? Because that was the budget of the movie Labyrinth. Did it make its money back? No, not quite. Who said these quotes? A Jareth? Me? Or a Jared? Oh no, someone has attacked the White House.
Oh, was that a Jared?
That's, of course, Jared Butler from the movie White House Down, White House Down, White House Down from the movie White House Down. Olympus has fallen. Who said this? I think there might be one too many socks down there, but let's see how we go.
Was it you, Jareth?
It was, of course, me, Jareth, the Goblin King, just trying to make my bulge as bulgy as possible. So congratulations, you've won yourself another 25 million points. I'm very impressed so far. Will you pass my trials 3? I hate you, Don Draper. You truly are a madman.
Is it Jared?
That's, of course, the actor Jared Harris from the hit HBO drama Mad Men. Then we've got, no, I'm actually from New Zealand, not Australia.
It's Jared Christmas.
As is indeed Jared Christmas. What is Christmas? I don't know. I'm a goblin, not a Christian, although I am a Presbyterian. And then finally, you will never find your precious baby.
Oh, is that you, Jareth?
No, that's, of course, Jared Leto. Well, David, you've done very well. I see you know your Jared's well. And let me just... excuse me, I'm being rather distracted by something. What's that over there? It's Hoggle. Dear sweet Hoggle. Innocent Hoggle. And what is he doing? He's walking around behind the lights. What the fuck are you doing? Are you professional or not? Am I going to walk around and rip your fucking lights down in the middle of the scene? And why the fuck are you walking right through? Da-da-da-da-da, like this in the background. What the fuck is it with you? What don't you understand? You haven't got any idea about, hey, it's fucking distracting having someone walking behind David in the middle of the fucking scene. Give me a fucking answer. What don't you get about it? Oh, good for you. And how was it? I hope it was fucking good because it's fucking useless now. Fuck's sake, man, you're amateur. Have you got anything to say to this prick? Somebody should be fucking watching and keeping an eye on him. It's the second time and he doesn't give a fuck about what's going on in front of the camera, all right? I'm trying to do a scene here and am I going, well, why the fuck is Shades Hoggle walking up and down with that? Do you understand why my mind is not in the fucking scene with that? Stay off the fucking set, man, for fuck's sake. All right, let's go again. No, let's not take a fucking minute. Let's go again. Yeah, fucking walking in. Unbelievable. You're fucking unbelievable. Number of times you're strolling fucking around in the background. I've never had a DP that works like this. You just I don't fucking understand what it's like working with actors or puppets. That's what it is. This is what it is. I'm telling you. I'm not asking. I'm telling you. You wouldn't be. I'm going to kick your fucking ass if you don't shut up for a second. All right. I'm gonna. Do you want me to tell it? You're trashing my scene. You are trashing my scene. Why? I've half a mind to take you to the bog of eternal stench.
Well, thanks, Jareth.
What?
What
a nightmare! What a nightmare! Why does this keep happening?
I had a question. I've got two thoughts here. Number one, I really hope that Christian Bale's meltdown is fair use. Number two, the fact that you have no nostalgia for this film eradicates this thought in my head. But whilst watching it yesterday, James mentioned on a previous episode that they might like to get slit eyebrows, and I wondered whether David Bowie's slit eyebrows
very, very pointed and slit
was the reason. Also, me laughing at I see you know your Jared's well woke up my dog.
What's great is I managed to combine the two things I like quoting from the most, which is, of course, I see you know your judo well. Hello to Nala the dog, my favourite of the Jim Henson puppets. Well, David,
As I was about to put it down, she went in my ear.
Well, David, it must be over to you now for the final scores.
I see you know your buttons well. James, at the end of this labyrinth-themed episode of Is This Enough, which I think you can all agree we did get through, I have won with 100,020,240 points to your honestly unbelievable score of 68,022,291 points. I think on any other given day, any other given episode, that might have been a winning score, but no. Which means that I receive a hug from Ludo, which is what I've always wanted, and you receive a hug from the CGI owl, who might weirdly be playing PlayStation 1, according to you. If you have enjoyed this episode of Is This Enough, you can follow us at Is This Enough Pod on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. And you can email us at isthisenoughpodcasting to tell us what other films you think we should do some fun, light-hearted quizzing about. You can find me at the Edinburgh Fringe at the Hill Street Theatre at 2:15 p.m. From the 2nd to the 25th of August, but not the 13th, because I will be sleeping. My show is called 1000% Musical Comedy. James, where can we find you on the internet?
Well, David, you can find me on Instagram at Is That James O? And you can also find me on TikTok, where I'm Let the James Begin.
Oh, I would say that's a lovely bit of seamless podcasting. Don't eat Soylent Green. James, the main question to ask you is, do you think this has been enough?
David, I think this has been indeed enough.
Well then, please join us again for another episode of Is This Enough? We will see you again, and as we say in these parts, it's Bob Iger for me.
And it's Bob Iger from me. And it's also Bob Iger from me.